Hey up folks, good to see you again. Right then, are model railways expensive to get into as a newcomer to the hobby? Yes they are folks, massively. Avoid them at all costs. Cheers then, thanks for watching. See you next time. Well, I say it's expensive, but it don't necessarily need to be, and I'll explain that on this video. This train that's about to come, I'm going to flick some prices up on screen as to what I think you'd pay for them nowadays. And because it's quite a juicy long train, as you can see, prices soon add up. And that might not be a problem to you. And if it's not, then all good. But there's two things, isn't there? There's one you might want it to be cheaper. You might need to do this hobby a bit cheaper and not spend silly money on one train. Or two, you just might need your missus to think it's cheaper, at which point you can do what I call the WPG, which is a wife pricing guide. Here's the adjusted prices, and I'll tell you how to do it. Basically, just take the cost and move decimal place across one, and it makes it 10 times cheaper. And it makes it more acceptable, doesn't it, when you're telling your missus, oh, I've just spent £3 on this wagon, or you say I've spent £26 on this class 37, and she says, £26? Are you mad? Why are you spending that much? And you're like, well, it's £26, and they're going off their heads about it, but really you know it's 260 quid, don't you? So that alone has saved you a massive amount of money. That's one way of doing it, unless you really don't want to spend them kind of prices. And then there's other alternatives. It's like that back scene there on left. That back scene's a Google image that I just pulled off Google that were for free. And then all you've got to do is go round to a mate's house and say, with a piece of paper in your hand with a couple of pieces of text on it, like it's a letter, and say, excuse me mate, can I just use your printer? And he says, yeah mate, of course you can. And then just print out as many copies of that in full colour that you can before he notices and says, oh mate, you're using all my colour ink, don't do that. And then you've got like a back scene for free. That's one way of doing it. Another way is getting yourself on eBay and finding some used stuff. These pictures here, this is my first layout that I did a couple of years ago. It were on a 7x4 board, Hornby track, expansion points A to F, 14 points, 14-point motors, real switches, etc. The only thing I didn't include was the buildings that could be lifted off the Metcalf, but there were buildings moulded in. One of them were a £50 Scaledale, and all that were included. I got 99 quid for it, so that were a great bargain for that buyer. It were all under a year old as well, so you got a bit of a deal there. Ironhorse at minute, it's got an N-gauge layout that is flogging for 100 quid, so that's another one that's cheap for someone. Because when you compare that full layout of mine at 99 quid versus that double slip there that's 50 quid, it shows how cheap you can do it if you want to do it, or how expensive it can be if you want the latest and greatest. Quick eBay search for the Reiko wagons, there's plenty for 12 quid. For 3, buy it now, no bidding, it's never going to get dearer than that. £3 a wagon, some of them are even £2 a wagon. You can get cheaper, but some of the stuff that's really, really vintage, I wouldn't probably buy that nowadays. But yeah, £2 a wagon, you can't grumble at that, can you? Or you can use my original technique and get these premium wagons and just say they were £2 a wagon. On a side note, look at all these locos just parked up here like abandoned, it's like a ghost town. What's going on today? Also, that big long train, I'm just going to leave that running round big outer loop now, alt video, because basically I'm testing them magnetic Hornbys to see how good they are. I've added 5 more 90-tonners since my last video as a bit of a test, and I tell you now, they are fantastic. They've not failed once. Just out of curiosity, did anyone ring Kerno for that 50p wagon offer? I just wondered if there were any left. Also, I'm wondering if Richard's actually seen that secret message that he left me, that he may or may not have left me on that last video. I pre-recorded this one because I'm going away, aren't I, to Devon, so I thought I'd get a few in, so I can't find out because I've not published that one yet, so I don't know if I've been sued or out yet. That's a nice shot, isn't it? I really think that looks decent, that at distance. On a side note, all these little silly things I do, calling people out and stuff, it's all free advertising, isn't it? Someone might think, I don't know who New Junction is, and go to his channel. They will, but what if they don't? like Westhill Wagon Works. It's free advertising for the shop. Can't see a problem with that. And I can't see a problem with my moving decimal point thing, because it's only what as other halves do to us when they buy handbags, shoes and clothes, isn't it? All we're doing is flipping script, aren't we? So yeah, basically that's really my answer to it. So yeah, it can be expensive if you want the all latest and greatest sound fitted premium models and all that business, and all best wagons and stuff and everything that goes with it. But you can do it cheap, you can do it on a bit of a budget. I think if you've got, say for example, a couple of £100, you could get quite a little decent little setup for that. The only problem you're going to get, though, if you get like addicted to it, then you're going to get carried away and it's just going to escalate. Because I've done this, and I'm not going to say how much this cost. Let's call it £300 for my setup, in case my missus watches. It was £300, but I'm seriously considering putting a big shedding garden and putting a big long one in. Because this is getting a bit small now and there's not much more I can do with this before I'm going to be like scratching my head a bit. And I could kind of link videos up to this anyway, so I could do two like Mouldy Raspberry does. He's got two layouts in two different locations and he links them together with videos, and I could do that. I like the idea of that. It might not happen yet anyway, but it's on my radar at the minute. I've got a few bits I need to do at home. I've got a few bits of repair jobs in the garden first, and I've got a load of edge to tackle. That edge is going to be a right mission, mega mission. Anyway, what's happening here today? What's Red Buffer's doing? I can tell you what Red Buffer's doing. He's just drove out at Sidings and he's going to get his send backed up, and he's going to go reversing round back by station to depot to pick up some new wagons. Yeah, new wagons again. It's an addiction, and these wagons are they're a bit crackers and all. Certainly a bit crackers for my layout, but it'll be all right when I explain the ideas behind it. So he's coming out nice and steady, so that I can show off this little bit of hillside, and he's going to start backing up shortly. I'll change point back. Oh, do you know what, as well, what I did the other day? You know that, I mentioned that I had a seat point motor that had gone wrong and it had caused a short, and I couldn't get the short to fix till I disconnected point motor. In a bizarre twist, I was looking for some little screws when I was doing them tanker wagons. I needed some little screws, and I thought, I've got some somewhere up here. So I'm pulling boxes galore out. Well, underneath this layout, it might look all pretty and fancy on top, but underneath it's frightening how bad wiring is. Because what I did is I put a bus in, if I can get my words out, and then I basically added everything to that, and then I put a second bus in for my lighting rig. And what I'm running underneath mine is I'm running a PC power supply that I've rewired part of it, because on a PC power supply you get 3.3 volts, 5 volts and 12 volts on output, so I can run all LEDs from the same one. So it don't matter if they come and they need diodes. I don't need to put diodes on if I don't want. I can just wire them to 3 volt input. And yeah, basically that and then switch panels I've got. Basically each switch panel's got, I think, 1 billion wires. So there's just about 1 gabillion wires under my layout. I'll show you a picture when I can be bothered. But I did intend to fully start rewiring it all. I'm going to change my point motors to Cobalt Digitals, all of them. I need about another 16. And that loses so much wiring, and then I'm going to start it all again. Because what happened was, I've sidetracked my brain there. What happened was, I'm scratching around looking for these screws, and I ended up pulling boxes out, and I'm disturbing wires a little bit, but not thinking out of it, because they dangle down like crackers. And anyway, that's a nice shot, isn't it though? Look at that. Anyway, basically, to cut long story short, I goes down into the garage, does that little wagon job with screws and bodges them together with broken uncouplings and stuff. Anyway, comes back up later on that night to do a bit of playing, turns it on and it shorts out, doesn't it? Oh my God, and I couldn't get my head around it. Just cut long story short, I fully took everything off, every coach, every loco, because I thought, I wonder if one of my, I don't know why I thought it, but I thought, I wonder if one of my decoders has gone or something, and it's because I couldn't think for life, because I'd not done out. And then I thought, well, I've moved a few boxes, so I starts looking at wiring. Do you know what had happened? one of my black wires had pulled out of a block connector, and it had basically fallen into the hole of a red wire's block connector perfectly. I mean, how can that even happen? So yeah, it weren't the seat motor all along that had gone wrong on that occasion. I'd obviously moved wire in for seat motor and caught the original wire that had fallen out, because it's clearly been falling out for months. Because I remember seeing block connector empty and thinking, oh, I've got a spare one there if I ever need it. But it ain't spare, it's because they'd fallen out. Both of them they'd either fallen out or I'd never connected them in the first place, but they'd managed to fall into wrong holes, and then just catching them had pushed it that little bit further in. Anyway, that was chaos. That was 3 hours I think I spent doing that. I was sweating and minging and horrible. Anyway, what we bought, let's have a look. Oh, look, I always do it, don't I? It's getting old, this trickery, isn't it? Where I block it as a bit more suspense. So anyway, I fully removed that seat point motor for now, but I'm not putting it back in. I can't bother. It's the right mission to get to. I'll put a Cobalt Digital. Oh, he's only gone and bought these nuclear flask wagons again. And funnily enough, there's green and blue, and funnily enough, I've got a yellow tank with some green and blue tarpaulin. Corresponds to pipes at north and south end. I can fill these green and blue containers now with stuff, and people aren't going to think to look in them. And I know they're not, because when police came looking the other day, they didn't think to look at nuclear containers because they didn't want to die, did they? So that's why they didn't find out, because I've put it in there. And I know now which side to go for to fill tanks. I've sold loads of it, it's mint. Anyway, I know most of you aren't going to follow that story, but some of you will. Just like this Red Buffers sign. It's about time I took that off, and it was a bit of a joke about 8 episodes ago, and I like it that much name, I've left it on. But I really need to buy an extra plate that says it, or 2. So grass looks like it's getting ready to need a bit of a cutting, doesn't it, that? So I'll have to get someone out to do that. I've added a bit more round this corner since this video. Last thing last night, I thought I'll just add a little bit more static grass, because you kind of get addicted to doing static grass. When you do a bit that looks nice, like that little area, I think it looks really nice. And then I think, oh, I'll do a bit more, and it's awkward. It's awkward when you've got fencing glued in place. I should have really done it all before I put fencing in, but you'll see it in a video or two's time. Anyway, look at this little view from top at bridge, look. Quite nice, looking over it, new bit of fencing, bit of scrap on right, bit of garbage chucked on floor on left. Cameraman Bob's just filming Grot there as he goes by with super long train, and it's quite a nice little shot, that, isn't it, I think? So about where front at 56 is now is where I've started adding a bit of static grass next to that pile of stuff, and along that fence line, and a little bit at front as well near the road, just to make it a bit more different. Because that brown, I don't know if I've told you this, that brown floor in there, it's just dirt out my garden that I've used. I've got a load of conifers, and underneath them the soil's so dry. So basically one day I sieved a load into one of our lass's pots, put it in oven for half an hour at 250 degrees to kill out that were any bacteria or nonsense in there. And yeah, basically I scatter it on the layout, so all the brown is actually real mud out my garden. It's all been glued on now, so it's not mucky anymore. Free ground cover, and yeah, it looks alright, doesn't it? Well, it's got to look alright, it's real, isn't it? Obviously don't do it when your missus is in, because I then had to put everything in the dishwasher because the sieve went brown, and it were a white sieve, and she came in from work and she's like, there's a weird smell in here, Dave, what you been cooking? I'm like, I ain't cooked out today, love. Anyway, I got away with it, but it made a weird smell, because let's face it, if you cook your garden, it's got an unusual smell. It's not like cooking some sausages. So yeah, but I got away with it. I just said, oh, I've no idea, it must be outside. And I'd say, in my defence, a little bit of low-level deception doesn't hurt anyone, does it? It's healthy for a marriage. Just on a side note, that little bit of fencing that ends there, that goes all the way round back of there, all the way round to the station. In fact, it goes all the way beyond the station, past depot, right up to where that yellow storage tank is. It's a right length now, that. That's also another point, actually, about can it be cheap model railways. If you scratch build stuff out of little bits and bobs of nonsense, like old cardboard boxes and stuff, you can do stuff really quite cheap. Those sheds on this area, on left of this area, that come in at about 16 minutes 20 into the video, they're made out of a couple of my missus's old boxes, and a bit of Metcalf on them, and a bit of ID back scenes leftover scrap sticker that I had. And then the rest of it's just bits I've printed off and stuck on and stuff and sprayed up and whatnot. Bit of weathering powder, and they literally cost maybe £1. And if you didn't know when you were riding past on a galloping horse, you'd think they were about 150 quid's worth. A lot of my big tunnels are made out of scraps of polystyrene from old boxes and stuff. If you get yourself a hot foam cutter, one of them hot wire cutters, you can cut through any old polystyrene into any shapes you want. And that's quite good as well. I mean, if you wanted to keep budget down, I wouldn't buy any of them scene craft buildings, because basically as soon as you touch them, you're addicted. I was talking to Ken Backman the other day, and he was telling me that they basically have discovered the human version of catnip, and they put it all over them, so you basically get that on your fingers. Next thing, you're scratching your face, and then you're hooked. You're hooked for life. Anyway, there are them sheds in the background. It's all blurred at the minute, and you can't really see them in this video, but at least you know which ones I'm on about. Next video is going to be TSX Volume 1 Extreme Train Spotters. I've not even made a start on that yet. It's gonna be coming. This one's probably filmed 2 weeks in advance of reality, I think, because knowing that I was going away, I thought I'll get some block filming in, especially that I knew that I'd not been up in loft for a bit because my bollies wouldn't let me. Also, I need to update you on Ladderman's goings on, don't I? So I'll have to focus a video around what's happened with him, because I've got some ideas, but I just haven't put it on film yet. We're about at the end, folks. Just to round it up, is it expensive getting into model railways? No, it doesn't necessarily need to be. It can be, doesn't necessarily need to be. Should you do one? Yeah, I think you should. It's a brilliant hobby, especially if your name's Steve. Even more so if your name's Martin. Cheers.